commentary world has decided and struck you as a genius, Dan, for the 12-man penalty and declared that it was intentional. Was it indeed intentional to induce the throw one-on-one against Jabbar in that spot?
He wasn't one-on-one. We actually had a safety on top. So there was so it's called dog. It's when you play, but he wasn't in extremely tight coverage, but he was in dog coverage where he had safety on top of him. And there was a timeout before that. We spent an inordinate amount of time on situations. There's some situations that don't show up very often in college football, but this is one that obviously was something that we have worked on. So you can see the result.
But maybe Dan Lanning needs to work on his poker face a little bit, referring there to the Ducks having 12 men on the field with 10 seconds left in the win over Ohio State Saturday, using a loophole in the rule, a pretty recent change that brought this about, but that in turn burned 4 seconds off the clock, 4 precious seconds that the Buckeyes could have used to get into field goal range. And now reports today that the NCAA Football Rules Committee actively engaged in examining this play for an in-season rule change, which is why I wondered, should he have played that card mid-October? Should he have not smirked?
You got to play it when it presents itself, right?
This is the most important game.
Yeah.
Okay.
He played it perfectly.
It was wild, though, huh?
This rule has been around. First of all, it used to be 15 yards when you had an extra guy on the field for defense. I fell prey to that and lost a game against Michigan.
No wonder you're jumping in.
Yes. Then I saw Dennis Erickson playing in Arizona State do this against me late in the first half, put 13 guys in the end zone. Couldn't get the ball into the end zone, threw it away, got the half the distance to the penalty, half the distance to the goal penalty, had to kick a field goal. It was genius. Then they changed it and said, no, it's a dead ball foul. Yeah. But then Nick Saban got caught in that final game against Auburn when Auburn put their quarterback back in punt formation. Nick tried to get extra guys in there, and they threw the penalty saying too many guys on the field, and Auburn wins the Iron Bowl. Now they've gone back to live ball because of all the substituting. Yeah. And this was perfectly played. Yep. He called timeout. Well, watch it here. You're going to see a timeout because he sees the bunch formation. If you look at the top of the screen,
he got the situation he wanted, right?
Exactly. You're going to see 3. Now they get the bunch formation. Yep. They send an extra guy in because in bunch, usually you have to have in and out coverage on those 3 guys so you don't get picked. But somebody's going to get out leveraged if you go 2 in or 2 out. By adding a 12th defender, they can't get there. He has to go to what he called dog coverage, which is a guy sitting hard on that route because he had safety help. You trade the 5 yards for the 12-man for the 5 seconds. And that was genius right there.
That's a clever way to tip the scale in your favor. I love it. It's a loophole. He exploited that loophole. Nothing was illegal. It will be moving forward, but it wasn't this past Saturday, so kudos to him.
Yeah, I mean, situational football has always been so important, but what a great example. Fans always wonder, what in the heck do coaches do so late at night? Case in point, those things don't come up at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday. Those things come up at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night on a Thursday.
Exactly.
Ryan Day wasn't sleeping late at night.
Well, Rick, what's the solution?
The other thing that happened, the officials in this game could have, if they knew that that was intentional, could have called an unsportsmanlike conduct.
I don't know how you prove that.
And that would have been, if they thought they were doing that illegally, it would have been a 15-yard penalty, and they would have taken the clock back to 10 seconds. But to put that kind of pressure on an official in that situation, when somebody's going in the game, you don't know that that kid wasn't just all of a sudden thinking, I should have been in there.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you can't do that. So now the rule makers are going to say, we got to take this out of their hands, out of the officials' hands, and say any extra delay a game on defense for having an extra guy or extra guys on defense goes back to the original clock.
I love this sport. We've all been around it in our entire lives, probably 200 years of experience in this sport, and there's always something new, some scenario we haven't seen, some convoluted rule. I remember when
you mean like Connor Stallions?
Like Connor Stallions, like the kick 6.
Kenny Pickett.
Like, how many years did you play football? I'd never seen that. It was genius, but that's the intricacy of these rules, and honestly, that's what makes this sport so fun. Ohio State had a hell of a lot more problems than 12 players on the field by the defense, particularly why they were out of field goal range in the first place. with JJ getting the OPI and being a little too handsy.
Their longest field goal had been 47. The Jeremiah Smith offensive pass interference moved them back.
It moves them back. So
and then play runs
and then
out.
Will Howard, man, I don't know how he slept that night, but that was a Chris Webber moment that was tragic. But man, this is the sport that we love. It always stays interesting, and I hope we get more of this.
In that game, Will Howard went 28 of 35. He played beautifully until that moment.
By the way, what was the alternative there? Should they have been throwing over the middle and then bang a timeout?
Well, they had a timeout.
Should he have
They
run
had a
sooner?
timeout with the 5-yard penalty from the 12-man on the field. They were at the 40. Really, if they could have gotten 5 to 7 more yards, they had a legitimate chance. They just should have been running the ball and getting that number.
All right, very good. We'll see if they meet again and if there's a little revenge.
That was great watching Coach Lanning attempt. Well, I guess he was successful keeping that laugh, that grin inside. Because he was.
Yeah, it came out.
The power